You know, I left the UK. I was calling all my friends up saying, you know, come to Dubai. What are you staying there for? Dubai is 5-10% cheaper, for example. Our marketplace is the world.
It feeds off of
exactly
other economies.
And if we're doing well, then of course people see how well we're doing. They judge their own lives by perhaps what they're seeing. You need agents. I remember a time when developers were saying, yeah, we don't need agents.
Oh, let's talk about that.
You know,
Yeah.
and that hurt. The buyer has to be three things. It can't be two of the three. AI will never, in my opinion, replace an agent.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here again on Main Mic with Amir. How are you, Amir?
How are you, man?
I hope you. Amir was in Miami, so he's still in Miami vibes.
I know, yeah. I'm trying to still live it as long as I can before I take the temperatures of Dubai in.
Yeah, we're in the hot season now. Today we brought a person who have been in the. I think we never had someone on the show that have been that long in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, in real estate.
That's definitely a trophy just for the years of being in the business, I think, because that right there, with all the ups and downs, with all the launches, with all the pressure, I think just anyone that could be in the business as long as you have been should definitely have recognition for just that.
Mario Volpi, please.
Thank you. And still in the business.
I'm still in the business.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. How many years?
So I celebrated 40 years in real estate last October. So technically, I'm in my 41st year now.
Wow.
2025, yeah.
Amazing. And in Dubai market?
In Dubai, again, 16 years last year. So I'm in my 17th year.
17th year.
17, yeah. So, yeah, not 70 years.
Yeah, obviously. Like, don't shock me more.
So 16 years ago, like that was right at the beginning of like Freehold.
Well, Freehold obviously started, in 2002. So I came here in August of 2008.
Okay.
I came as a manager, but unfortunately, what I didn't know is that a few months later, we were going to witness, I guess, the collapse of the real estate market due to the world financial crash, which wasn't just a Dubai issue, it was a world issue.
Sure.
So, you know, I left the UK because they were struggling. I came here, I was calling all my friends up saying, you know, come to Dubai, what are you staying there for? You know, really winding them up.
Yeah.
And then sort of 3 months later, they were calling me saying, who's the loser now, when we all collapsed as well, you know? So what goes around comes around.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, cyclical. I mean, real estate and world economies are all connected, no matter how isolated you think. When there's any type of fear in the marketplace, especially when it has to do with your money, then people start to make decisions according to what they see and hear.
Definitely. But however, as you were speaking, I was just thinking that wasn't the market that I was used to in the UK. Being an agent and a manager in the UK as well, we dealt with, it's a cosmopolitan market, or at least it was, but it was all London where I was.
Yeah.
Whereas Dubai is such an international market. So what you just said there is very pertinent to Dubai, because our marketplace is the world.
It feeds off of other economies.
And if we're doing well, then of course they see how, you know, people see how well we're doing. They judge their own lives by perhaps what they're seeing. Sometimes it's a little bit glamorous on Instagram and the TVs and what have you. But, you know, they long for that.
Sure.
And that longing through problems economically or geopolitically in other countries will attract people here because of the stability and the safety.
I can agree to what you just said about markets in UK and also in the US, that they're really cosmopolitan. They're really depending on the consumer that is looking to buy a home for their own purposes of living or perhaps investing. But here we're dealing with mostly international investors. And so that right there allows us to be able to, first of all, be versatile, so we can always have a resilient market. Whether one market's not doing good, then we change our shift to another different demographic that can come in and purchase the properties that is not selling to another.
Absolutely. I mean, when I remember the kind of demographics or the people that were buying in the UK, they were, I would say, 99 times out of 100 buying to live in, just like you said. And when you talk to people, one or two of them might have a holiday home at the time, maybe in France, in Italy, Bulgaria as well was a big thing, sort of in the 80s. but primarily you would be talking to somebody who had one property.
Yeah.
Yeah, two if you're lucky. Here, when you're calling people, you're speaking to people, they might have 5, they might have 10, and that's why it was so difficult to transpose your knowledge or how you worked, again, for me, from the UK to kind of bring that here. And I mentioned this before in another podcast that we did, that when I came here as a manager, and at the time I had 24 years of experience in real estate. So it amounted to something, but actually it amounted to nothing. Because when
felt
you
like you were starting all over again, huh?
Absolutely. You were telling agents, successful agents who were driving around in Lamborghinis at the time, bearing in mind they'd probably been here since 2006, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Before, like
before,
years
but
ago,
when the market was really booming like that, unsustainably, obviously, queues at developers' offices trying to buy pieces of paper. I mean, I'm sure people will remember that if they've been around a while. And when I would try to be, although I'm Italian, try to be that sort of Britishness about it. This is how you do it, and as you said before, you turn up on time. You do this. You do that. Is it who are you?
Yeah, they're like, I have a Lamborghini.
Exactly, and unfortunately, that created a confidence issue for me, because there I am thinking, well, yeah, you've got this experience, but either they're not listening, and they don't need to listen, because actually, if you transpose success into monetary things, then they were successful. Okay. But of course, what they didn't realize is that they were only successful for 5 minutes because it was easy to sell then.
Agreed.
In some respects.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted
Globally.
a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
I made an example that you put a tortoise on a desk, they would have sold it. They would have sold something. They didn't need to do anything. We were order takers.
They were not successful. They were just in a very good wave that pushed all of them.
They were in the right place at the right time.
The fish were jumping into the boat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what was happening.
So I had some issues, which I was questioning, why I brought my whole family here and what have I done. But of course, in the long run, you had to have that knowledge and experience of dealing with people, because what was to come a few months later, really defined my journey here. And ultimately made me have to give up being a manager and actually go into
sales,
being a broker as well. And that's the beauty about, I've not just been a manager here, I've been a broker. So I've walked the path that a lot of people are doing. Look, different time, different place, I get it. Competition wasn't as high then. I mean, now what do we have, 30,000 agents?
Yeah.
6,000, 7,000 companies. I mean, I don't even know how many agents were there. Maybe estimating 3,000 agents or something like that. So the competition was much, much less.
Yeah.
But you couldn't give things away in 2009, for example, when the market had crashed.
What happened to those guys with the Lamborghinis?
They had to give them back. Yeah,
They're probably not in the business anymore.
I remember one guy. I won't name names. I believe he's still in the industry actually. Who got this Lamborghini, but his wife did not like it. He was getting a lot of pressure from the wife to say, what are you doing,
Yeah.
So I think in the end, he gave that back more from a marital pressure rather than financial.
I can remember that back in South Florida, it was kind of similar. In 2008, I had just gotten married in 2006, and 2008, the market had crashed. And real estate, as I knew it, was just like you explained it in Dubai, where the fish were jumping into the boat. And then all of a sudden, when you had to go out there and really work hard and prospect and have relationships and be able to show up on time and have discipline, 90% of the agents disappeared.
Yeah.
And so then I found myself as a manager that was also thinking about what am I going to do to keep the doors open, and went into this phase of being able to reinvent myself. And went into representing developers and representing banks to be able to sell their distressed assets. So I'm sure that you had to probably make a pivot as well, right, in that market?
100% I did. I didn't go down the developer route.
Okay.
I've been offered many positions with developers, and I always felt that, I guess it depends on the developer, of course, but I always felt that I was one of these people that I wanted to sell kind of everything, give people the choice.
Okay.
And if you work for one of the main developers, you can only sell that product.
Yeah.
You go into a Mercedes garage, they'll sell you a Mercedes. You go into a car showroom, they'll sell you a Mercedes, a BMW, a Lambo. What do you want?
Variety.
That variety. And brokerage is what offered me that. But you're talking about pivot? Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first job that I came here for. Obviously, I came here as a manager. But as things were getting worse and worse, agents were losing their salary.
Yeah.
So we went from salary jobs to just commission.
Okay.
So that was a
Oh,
start.
so you're telling me that back in the days, agents had salaries?
Well, they did in the company that I worked for, yeah.
Okay, that's new.
Listen, the salary wasn't big, but it was something that would cover, because as most people know, some agents don't do deals every month. You know?
Yeah.
So to have that base, as it were, meant that they were able to survive, they were able to run their car, they were able to pay their rent and eat, obviously. The commission was the top up. So we started. I remember there were some agents that went back to the UK, because it was a UK based agency at the time. Actually, it was the first one that opened a showroom on Sheikh Zayed Road. They opened up, I think, in something like 2003. I want to say. I'm not 100% certain on
2003. Wow.
2003. They were definitely the first real estate company to have a showroom on Sheikh Zayed Road. Which incidentally was opposite Business Bay Metro, but of course the Metro wasn't there.
Not there, yeah.
You know?
Wow.
And when I came in 2008, they were building it, and what was really good and really clever is that the steps to then get to the bridge that takes you to the metro station was right outside our door.
Store. Okay.
So that was good. But anyway, some of these agents went to the UK for Christmas and for holidays, and part of my job, unfortunately, was to call them to say don't come back.
Oh my God.
Don't bother, because the market is just not there, and or if you are coming back, you're not going to come back with there's no salary now. It's just commission only. Are you okay with that? Now, of course, a few people were, and as we went further into 2009, even my own salary, because I couldn't say to you don't have a salary, and there I am taking a salary.
Yeah.
Even though. Even managers, they have a salary and obviously, commission from the point of view of what's
The business.
No, the override.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cut that out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry. Yeah.
With the view of the override, but so again, that had to be cut and big time, and it got to the stage. I remember he cut my salary 3 times. And when he tried to cut it the 4th, I said, "So hold on,
stop.
Shall I pay you to work for you? So we left on mutual terms.
Yeah.
And that's when I became
Agent.
a broker.
Broker.
Because you had to. I mean, managing who? There was no one to
Yeah.
manage, as you say. So many people
Left.
Many of my friends who came over. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 of them did leave their cars at the airport and just left.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that period.
Yeah, that was.
But
that was tough.
real estate, like now real estate is attractive, even though there is a lot of competition, is an attractive job. And okay, we know like underground here inside Dubai, the reputation of an agent is not the best, but it still is attractive for newcomers. Was it the same back in the days?
Real estate has always been regarded as very low grade in the world over. Maybe not so much in America.
Actually, I remember you mentioning this, and I wanted to save it for when the cameras were rolling. And this is one of the phenomenons that really we have to understand about our industry, that nobody grows up saying that they want to be a real estate broker when they grow up, right? They know no kid is going to be coming around
Or a
saying
tax
that
inspector.
they want to be a real estate broker.
Yeah.
Usually real estate happens when 10 other things fail. When you don't pass the bar exam, when you don't pass the meds exam, or whatever the case might be, that's when you join real estate. It's a
Yeah.
bunch of misfits.
You're so right.
It's a bunch of misfits. They come here thinking that just because I got my license in 7 days that I can make $1 million or dirhams, right? And then the market teaches them a lesson that this is not for the faint. It's going to take some hard work.
But I guess that's also why so many people fail at it as well. For every success story that you talk about, making $1 million or $1 million dirhams or something, there's 100 people behind you that have failed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I used to think freshers, what a nightmare, because you're having to train them up, you have to give them all your support and everything. And the majority of them don't succeed. And then you think, what a waste of resources for them as well,
Yeah.
And I would only at that time, I mean, I've since changed my mind, by the way, but at that time I would only try to recruit experienced agents, or at least agents who understand.
Yeah.
But now, because all developers, because all brokerages are growing because of
Rapidly.
the demand, you're having to throw that net out and just trawl in as many. And the brokerages that have good training, good support, good managers are the ones that at least are offering the level of support that I think these people need. And one other thing that I think we should also talk about is the mental health. Now, it's a big topic in sport, in business, bullying, all this business. But the mental health side, my goodness, I'm not an expert. I even remember one guy once, a few years ago, came up to me saying, I'm thinking of committing suicide.
Oh my God.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I thought, what do you say to that? I went into dad mode. And I said, think about your parents.
Yeah.
For you, it's gone. But think about the train wreck that you're leaving behind. I don't even know if I was saying the right thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I tried to support. The good news is he turned his life around. He's married. He's got a kid, and I'm very happy that I was part of his journey
Wow.
too, because he was an agent of mine. But I'm not saying that that's normal.
Yeah.
But people do think, what have we done? It happened to me when I had my crisis of confidence.
Yeah. When you were talking about experienced agents versus new coming agents, I ran a brokerage for at least 10 years in Miami, and I was part of a brand that basically I felt was the recruiting ground for the top brokerages in town.
Oh, wow.
Because my brand was not really as known as the others, and so it felt like all I was attracting was newcomer agents. And they would come and drink the coffee, they would come and take the training, and then once they would learn and close their first deal, they'd be going somewhere else.
Oh.
And so then I kind of went into the same mindset as what you were saying, is to go after the top producing agents. And then we were really successful in doing that by giving aggressive commission splits, by giving them all the bells and whistles of marketing and so on and so forth. And then I noticed that the culture of the company completely was gone, where like you couldn't have one agent even look at the other agent. There was so much competition. There was like just this rivalry, and there was not enough people showing up to meetings. Nobody really, they were just coming into the office to cash their checks basically, which was good, for business, but not good for the culture and the brand. So I learned then that you need both. You need the new coming agents and you need the top producing agents. And then the manager's job is to be able to marry or build that culture so that both can feel like they belong in that company. And that's one thing that successful brokerages here I've seen done. And then, of course, the struggling ones, you'll see that they're trying to either inundated with work with the new coming agents or the demands of the top producing agents.
Totally agree with you. Culture, you mentioned some of their culture is so important, but not just in real estate, in all walks of life, in any business, even in sport. And I'm not a Manchester United fan. I'm a Chelsea fan. Okay. But Sir Alex Ferguson built a culture at Manchester United that produced treble winners. You've not seen that replicated since he left, and he's been gone years and years and years and years. Mm-hmm. And it was that culture, the likes of Paul Scholes, David Beckham would talk about. That you either bought into that culture. Mm-hmm. Or you didn't, and if you didn't survive, and this is certainly what we're trying to do at Novi, for example, and I think any company should have or nurture that culture. You talk about a mixture. Of course, you need that mixture because even the good agents want to work with even better agents. Yeah. The newbies look up to the experienced agents. So if you're all one or the other, you don't have the ingredients for the cake to rise.
Sure.
And you're absolutely right. The manager's job is a thankless one, I have to say, and one that really kind of, when it goes well, it's fine. You keep your job and all the rest of it, but you don't get the thanks.
Yeah.
When it doesn't go well, boy, do you know about it, because
They blame you.
the owner. Yeah, it's all your fault. You haven't thought about this. You haven't thought about that. And there's so much to do on a daily basis. Your diary might be empty in terms of you don't have meetings, but literally the minute you walk in, a problem or a situation will come, and you have to tap into, if you have it, that life bank experience to say, don't worry, okay? This is what we'll do. And that's all people want. Sometimes people just want you to listen to their problem. You know, a problem shared is a problem halved half the time. Now, where managers, I think, make a mistake is that they think that the agent is expecting, now some of them do, of course, is expecting the answer. I'm coming to you because I need an answer to my problem. Sometimes the answer manifests itself in a different way. And just talking about it is so important. Like, so what we do, for example, when an offer comes in, we do not allow that agent to put that offer forward directly. We, the managers, myself, we want to sit down with that agent and we want to say, okay, talk to us about the offer. What is the offer? Who's the buyer? Who's the seller? What's the motivation? Why is the seller selling? And so we have to qualify all sorts of things and we strategize before we put forward an offer. Because we've had situations, especially from newbies, a property is on the market, let's say $1 million. They managed to get a listing, which is a win in itself now. They've got this listing, it's on the market, it's $1 million dirhams, and all of a sudden, they get an offer of $1 million dirhams. Amazing. So they say, great, we've got an offer, we put it forward, the owner didn't accept. Well, hold on, what's the asking price? $1 million. What did you offer? $1 million. The owner thinks, well, I've sold that too cheap. You managed to get me a buyer.
That's a problem. The buyers and the sellers.
Because the seller's expectations also have to be managed. We're all human at the end of the day. Now, we have to strategize. We have to put forward the offer, but it's how you put it forward in the manner that you do. You know, recently with the tariffs that we had the problems, the dollar went down, the euro went up, the sterling went up. So now all of a sudden European buyers, Dubai is 5-10% cheaper, for example. And so we use sometimes that to help get the offer accepted. But the agent was so disappointed. I got the asking price. In the UK, you get the asking price, they pat you on the back. Here, you get the asking price, well, you didn't accept. So that's why we need to ensure that that level of support is there from newbies to experienced or to ever. Now, we don't always get it right, but certainly that culture that we talked about, coming in, working hard, playing hard. We do a lot of social events as well. Team building. We were supposed to go and do paintballing yesterday, which was so funny because at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock in the evening, the owner turns around and says, weren't we supposed to be doing paintballing today? We were so busy that actually...
You forgot about it.
We forgot about it. So,
but invite me next time.
You're going to be a target there, huh?
I remember when you were talking about when agents come to you with problems and they're looking for answers. I used to tell my agent before the meeting, I want you to come up with 3 possible solutions. And so by the time that the meeting was scheduled then for us to be able to meet, usually the meeting would get canceled. Why? Is because they came up with the solution for the problem.
Oh my God, that's a good trick.
So usually they just want a shoulder to cry on.
Absolutely.
They just want somebody to reconfirm their thought process. But if you just give them that confidence, or if you give them that path to be able to resolve their own matters, then it's usually that's the case. That it's just direction.
No, definitely. But also one other thing. Some of these managers do believe, I have to say, I'm kind of in that camp, that when an agent, because my clients are the brokers. The brokers' clients are the buyers, the sellers, you know, the landlords, etc. But my clients are my agents. So when they need something, it's a bit like they say jump, you say how high, you know, type of thing. So when you actually either miss a call or you're in a meeting and your phone rings and it's your agent, they're reaching out to you because at that moment in time, they need you. They need something, a document, an information, whatever, any resources. And sometimes you can't give that because you know, life happens.
Obviously,
but even if you call back, let's say 20 minutes, half an hour later, sorry, I missed your call. I was in a meeting. Oh, don't worry, I've sorted it. So actually, they reach out reactively. Because it's a bit like a child and a parent.
It's like just to manage their stress.
But what you've just said is absolutely right. If you instill that within the culture that, look, problems happen. Problems are part of life.
Sure.
Start to think about what could be the possible solutions. Let's strategize it. Let's talk about it. Maybe I can bring, or you can bring your own experience to that solution, and then you can pick the best one. Sometimes, again, you don't get it right, but at least it's a collective effort. So if things go wrong, it's not your fault, it's our fault.
Correct.
You know?
There is something you said. It really caught my attention. You said, because of, I know it's a little bit out of the line of topics we're talking about, but you said that because of the tariffs and all what's happening, Dubai is 15% cheaper for Europeans.
Well, 5 to 10%.
5 to 10.
Because the dollar weakened, therefore the
Currency.
dirham weakened.
Yeah.
And so in that case, with the euro and the sterling, strengthened,
stronger,
it just means that Dubai is a bit cheaper for them.
And there were like a spike in like European buyers because of that, or
It's too early to tell, but I mean, certainly the FX companies are letting people know that, and yes, we've also done sessions where, we've reached out to people and say, look, if you were on the fence, now's a good time
to jump.
Now's a good time if you were thinking about it to actually, because it's a little bit cheaper. And that's one of the things that we're going to say to the Italian buyers when we go to Italy on the roadshow.
I want to ask both of you, because from a developer standpoint, from a broker standpoint, do you think it will, for the people who are in the fence, do you think it gonna be like more like attractive for them, or it's gonna stabilize and come back to?
So I mean, what
All
do
right.
you mean?
So basically, you said for the people who are on the fence, because of what's happening, it's a good time to buy. How long is this? Let's say discount.
Okay.
So
We can use that actually.
No.
That could have been content right there.
The thing is,
Look, an agent's calling. Tell him that.
Yeah, can I just tell you that chap, when I first started, so I've been with Novi just a year, yeah. Within the first few weeks, you see the dynamics, of who's big dog, who's who's the quiet one, who's not, who's with the boss, who's not, that kind of thing, and this particular guy, he's like a teddy bear. He's a big guy, family man, but I could see he was struggling a bit. But I saw something in him, and I remember having a chat with him, and I just put him to one side, and I said, "You have everything you need, okay? But I've just walked in here. I'm supposed to be your boss, okay? I'm not your boss, and nor is the owner. The owner's not your boss, even though that's who they look up to." I said, "You have a daughter, you have a wife.
They're the boss.
Take a picture, put it in your book, and every time you open that page, you look at them. That's your COO. That's your CEO. That's who you're working for. And if you're not up to scratch, you're going to have to answer to them." And he took that on board. And by the way, he was doing the odd deal here and there. The guy has become a specialist in a specific area on the beach side of JBR.
Nice.
Anything that moves there, he knows about it.
Wow.
And right now, he's dealing with a particular buyer who's bought there before, but because he's the specialist, and he's come to me before and said, those words resonated with me. They've stuck with me, and I took those words to build, because he was quite.
And
His confidence wasn't there. He's not brash. He's not cocky. He's not an ego guy. But he took those words and built on it. And now he's one of the top billers.
Amazing,
And that is what gives me my pleasure.
Of course, yeah.
That my few words of encouragement have moved him to where he needed to be.
Yeah, impacted him.
But he's the one that did it, not me. The ingredients were there.
Yeah.
And so yesterday we had a long chat. We strategized. I told him what to do. He spoke to the owner. Now, because he already called me before, saying, let's work on the wording for the contracts. He's about to close a 6-point-something million deal.
So after that, he will invite us, right?
So I think, one of the things that you've highlighted is the importance of relationship, from the manager to the broker, from the broker to the buyer to the seller, so on and so forth. That's one thing that I think all of us need to understand about this business, that we're just in the business of creating relationships, right? And then we just happen to be selling real estate. It could be selling toothpicks for that matter. It's not what
Correct.
we're selling. It's really the relationship we're building, what makes one agent successful rather than fail.
Totally agree with you. And actually touching perhaps on that and bringing in the culture bit as well, I often hear people say, especially in real estate, because that's what I do, so that's what I hear. They say, oh yeah, come and work with us because we're a family. You know, this is a family. And I'm thinking, this is not a family, right, at all, okay? And actually, if you think about it, I'm sure, I hope I'm right here, I'm sure there are people in your family and there are people in your family that you don't like. There are people.
Every family has that.
Absolutely. You know, think about Thanksgiving, think about Christmas, think about, you know, Eid, whatever.
Yeah.
When you come together, there are people in the corner who go, oh, that uncle, you know, he's always embarrassing me or whatever. There are people you don't like.
Yeah.
And so we don't use that analogy. We use an analogy of a tribe.
Okay.
Now, why a tribe?
I like that.
So in a tribe, and if we think about sort of the rudimentary part of it, like in a village, a tribe has the chief, yeah? The chief is often the owner of the company, yeah? A tribe has the elders. That's where I come in, the oldest swinger in town. So the experience, so you have the chief, the elders, and then you have everybody else doing what they need to do to improve the part of the village. So maybe it could be the wife is sweeping the step of the house. You know, the husband is fixing something, the fence. You know, everybody is working towards the betterment, of the village. You look after your part, I'll look after mine, and the result is, in theory, that everybody then will benefit. So that's what we use as an analogy when we talk about our real estate company. You're not joining a family, because I just think that's too much of a cliche, like you said.
Yeah.
You talked about cliche before. That's too much of a cliche. So we're trying to do something different. And the tribe definitely describes it as best as possible, because we're all striving for the same thing. What you want is what I want.
Yeah.
You know, success in some respects is valued in different ways. So for some, it's that Lamborghini. For some, it's just the peace of mind to know that actually tomorrow I have enough money that I can do something with that freedom.
Yeah.
Others want status, titles, etc. To be known as the number one agent, to be known as the area specialist. But if you work in that kind of environment, that kind of culture, and I don't say that we always get it right. Of course, we get it wrong too. But we have to learn from those mistakes and build on those. And that's what definitely we're trying to do.
As a developer, our job has been, since the beginning of our existence, is to create valuable relationships with brokers. We know that our success is 100% dependent on our brokers trusting us and doing business with us and bringing their clients to be able to buy our properties. What do you think developers these days, do you think they're doing a good job in creating relationships with brokers, and what can they do to do a better job?
It's a great question, because on one hand, I want to be measured. On the other, as a brokerage, you know, I'm tired of really working so hard with getting this particular buyer to either convince him to go to this developer and then, you know, having to line up and get the QR codes, and then you get there, and then you're not allowed through because they sold out, or the EOIs, your face doesn't fit, or you're not in the top 20, you know. And I lose my credibility with this buyer.
Yeah.
And so and I don't have the answer, by the way, but if there was one thing I could change, is in some respects how we sell now. But we're a victim of our own success. Because literally, I can't even keep up with these projects.
Launches, yeah.
2, 3 a day. All we're doing as brokers is going to offices and understanding what the concept is, the payment plan, the sizes of this, that. And now not just Dubai. Now we've got Ras Al Khaimah. Now we've got Abu Dhabi. We have Al Quwain.
Yeah.
Soon we'll have Ajman and Sharjah, and perhaps Fujairah will come along as well. I actually don't know how brokers do it.
Yeah.
I've got one guy who is like an encyclopedia. He's amazing. He knows everything. I don't know how he does it, but rather than contacting the developer, we contact him. What's the service charge for this? What's the project there? Where's the handover this? I don't know how he does it, but he's an amazing guy in that respect. So, look, I think in the main you're doing a good job, but it was funny what you said about you need agents. I remember a time when developers were saying, yeah, we don't need agents.
Oh, let's talk about that.
You know?
Yeah.
And that hurt.
Yeah.
That really hurt because they did not value what you just said, the relationship part. And yes, maybe at that time they didn't need agents because buyers were still coming.
Yeah. I think like developers, any developer, whether they're the biggest developer in town or the newest developer in town, we all need agents. We cannot sell our own inventory, and even if they don't admit it, it's the component that makes the industry work, right? If it wasn't for the brokers, I don't think this market would be as hot as it is today.
I agree. And you're right. But I hanker back to the days, and they still have them, where these developers had their own salespeople.
Correct.
And you know, and the shenanigans that went on there, that when you brought a buyer, you know, this is now my buyer.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, no. If I
ethics.
didn't bring it to you, you wouldn't have that buyer. Yeah, but now he's our buyer. So that was also difficult to swallow as brokers.
That was before, right? Or still is?
Do you think that still happens in today's market, like where the internal salespeople are not ethical? And
I don't want to
registering
sit
the
here
sale
and
at,
cast aspersions on any developer, okay?
Of course,
Don't put me into that corner.
generally speaking.
But in some respects, why, if they are still doing it, and I guess maybe some of them still are, why would you pay a broker, you know, 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever, when I can pay my salespeople, you know, 1% or whatever it is that they pay? So I do believe it still goes on. It's a factor of life. I don't agree with it, but I'm happy that as a developer, you're now starting to think that despite the fact that you do have salespeople, or developers have salespeople as well, that you've recognized the fact that we bring that diversification of clients,
100%.
and it's our relationship we have with those clients, which in the main, for certain ones, they are loyal. I always say there is no loyalty in real estate. You bring a property to someone that wants that, doesn't matter whether you're related to them, they'll go with you. But
That's a clip.
they do actually. Some people do value that loyalty, because if you are a true broker and you are offering that independent level of assistance, experience, advice, consultation, then hopefully the client will have either experienced that before and appreciated it. The agent that walks away from a deal because it's not right for the client is the agent you need to work with. And the majority of times, I'm sorry to say, you know, the agent is just chasing the sale. And that's where the true consultant comes in. You know, the true broker who values the relationship between 10 deals later than one deal now.
Today. Wow.
They're more interested in the relationship. They're more interested in doing what's right. They're more interested in making sure that if this deal doesn't happen, then 10 other deals can happen.
That's
if I
the
am
true
ethical.
broker, yes.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there are too many people, because, as you say, the entry level to being a broker is relatively low.
Yes.
Or too low, you know?
I want to ask you something. Lately, we're seeing that there's a lot of developers, which is, I believe, good for the market. And, you know, because there is a lot of developers, agents, they can exist. You said before, developers, they were like, no, we don't need an agent, because maybe they were few. And
I want to clarify it. Developers have always needed brokers.
Yeah.
But they went through a phase of, you know, talk to the hand.
Yeah.
I don't need you.
Yeah.
They had to go through that in some respects to understand the value of what they had.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like a wife, a girlfriend. If you don't appreciate, they then go away. And then when you don't have that person,
You're like, oh.
you miss that person. So that's exactly what's happened here. So they always needed us. They went through that phase, and now they've come back, as you've said. But right now,
These brokers aren't wives and girlfriends; they're lovers. They're here to
Yeah,
work
because
on-
now we're talking in the off plan.
you're right. They're also
because they're also in it just for the money, and then
they're also
there's
in
no
one night
loyalty
stands
and
as well,
exactly.
because you might do a deal with one person and then never see them ever
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
So
which is most of them, unfortunately.
so we're actually looking about
But we're here to make
relationship.
wives.
We're here to make
Like you're
wives.
talking the
Absolutely.
wifey style, like
We-
the wifey one.
We want that relationship. We don't just want yeah.
But my question is, I think the reason why they were a little bit talked to the hand, as you said, is that because there were only few developers. I'm talking back in the day, 2006, 2007, and 8, and all of that.
Yeah, of course. There were only the semi-government ones, the government ones. And actually, it's an interesting point because the market has evolved.
Yeah.
And just coming here, I was just coming here, I was listening to the radio, and it was the motor show, the motor program, and they're talking about all these Chinese cars coming in, and I instinctively thought of real estate as well. So you have the big 5, 6, whatever developers, government-owned developers or semi-government-owned, and now you have so many different developers coming in. So you have all the big cars, the Mercedes, the BMWs, all the brand names.
Yeah.
But now you have the Chinese cars coming in, and they're making a splash. They're making a noise.
Yeah.
So what's happening in the automotive business is kind of also happening here. A lot of developers that you've never heard of at all are coming into the Dubai real estate market. A, because the government, the land department is allowing it. And especially with the escrow laws and the safety net that we kind of have now for investors, which we didn't have, by the way,
When they
before.
started.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think I told you that time when we were selling, apartments in a building that A, wasn't built and the developer didn't even own the land.
Oh my God.
Ridiculous. Which I'm very happy to say that we have, changed
Evolved.
and evolved into now probably one of the most safest and transparent real estate markets in the world, and we have to be. And so now all these developers are coming in. The real question that we have to say is not so much, well, you've never done any business here. It's okay, because whether you have or you haven't, that's the choice of the buyer, because the safety net is there from escrow and all the laws. But if they have been developers in their home country, okay, so what have you built there? Show us that too.
Yeah.
So there is still that element of I've delivered this or I've delivered. But even if they haven't, if the project is peach, if it's in a great location, because the laws are now on the side of the investor, it doesn't actually matter. So the marketplace has opened up tremendously. It's not just the big
To
guns.
add on what you said, something very interesting. We spoke about it so many times. I remember you said earlier that you are fed up with trying to bring a buyer. Once you bring a buyer, you go to purchase, and then the building is sold, which happened with the big boys. And I believe now in the market, and I heard this from a lot of agents, they were like, listen, I rather capitalize and focus on a boutique developer next to a major one or in a good location, rather than going and chasing the big one, because I might not have a chance.
Correct.
As a broker, what you just said makes perfect sense, and of course gives that opportunity of securing a unit. But the whole mechanics, it starts, first of all, the buyer, especially an international buyer, starts with hearing about Dubai, seeing it on the internet, seeing programs on it, good and bad, obviously, because there's
Dubai blank.
well, you said it. The point is that they form this image in their mind of what Dubai is, and so they're already coming to you interested. You're not picking people off the street and saying, do you want to buy in Dubai? Hey, you never thought about that. So you've then got to show them your way. But if in their mind, all they've seen, let's take Chelsea, for example, and stay with me on this one, okay? Take Chelsea. They've now collaborated with Damac, for example.
Yeah.
Okay? Damac, the biggest independently owned developer in the Middle East. They may have heard of that. So this particular buyer, having either seen Damac, maybe they're a football fan, maybe they're a Chelsea fan or whatever. By the way, we can sell them Chelsea residences now.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
Oh my God. Another branded one.
They come. We're now talking to them. In their head, all they've got is Damac, or it could be another developer. Yeah. Now I'm trying to tell them, hey, but there's this great boutique developer who hasn't developed anything in the UAE. So it's a big struggle to then change their mind.
Yeah, pros and cons in it as well.
Now,
yeah.
if you deliver all the pros and cons, as you say, but they still have in their head either Damak or whatever, then at the end of the day, they're telling you. So it's still really difficult. We're not quite at that stage. The complete blank canvas buyer, amazing. Then you can say, look, first of all, what do you want? What do you want to get out of it? Are you an investor? Are you an end user? What's important? Capital appreciation, return on investment. Are you going to keep it long term? Are you going to rent it long term? Are you going to rent it short term? There are so many questions to ask. And as a result of that, that's what we call a fact find. Once you fact found and analyze what the client wants, that's when you can start to think about, well, which is the developer that is ticking either all of those boxes or some of those boxes? Because not all the boxes can be ticked.
Very hard, obviously.
But if the majority are, and then the person is ready, and that's another thing. I always say to my agents, a buyer has to be three things. There can't be two of the three. Ready, willing, and able. I'm sure, you've been in the business industry a lot. You can be ready and willing, but not able. You can be able and willing, but not ready. Three things have to be there. And sometimes they want to buy, they're ready to buy, but they're not able because the money is stuck in a crypto account somewhere that's blocked or something, or whatever.
Yeah.
So one or two of my agents now, the first thing they say, okay, so are you ready? Are you willing? Are you able? They kind of get that out.
Yeah.
It's
the checklist.
Once you've got that, they're ready. They know that's a buyer, So take that, ladies and gentlemen, and use that.
Oh my God.
In real estate, like whether it be UAE, whether it be UK or even the US, I think the philosophies of building relationship and training them, giving them the true fundamentals don't change. Those are
I agree.
all going to be paramount
And they
to
will
a
always be
successful
there.
real estate agent. Yeah.
And that's also
So
why,
that's-
sorry to cut across, that's also why AI, and I'm sure you haven't even touched on AI. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
That's why AI will never, in my opinion, replace an agent. They will aid. We will need AI, by the way. And I know we've completely gone off tangent, and I do apologize. However,
No, it's okay.
the relationship that you're talking about is pertinent to what I'm saying here. Maybe long after I've gone, dare I say even long after you've gone, the robot will be so sophisticated that maybe that relationship
But you know
will
what?
happen.
I'm going to challenge you on that is because I used to think about that in my banking relationship. I used to think that I'll always need to go to a banker. I'll always need to go to a teller and make my deposit or receive my cash or apply for a loan. And now I prefer to apply for the loan or get my credit card replaced or something like that online on the app.
That's a generational thing. You're still a young man.
But as we go into the next generation of buyers that are coming in, right, that is going to replace and that's going to become the majority of the buyers. Now, I'm not saying that there's not going to be a need for relationship. I'm not saying that agents are going to go out of business. But I'll say is that majority of the business is going to be done online versus in person.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to also agree with you. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you challenged me on it. But for me, yes, you're right. That's the way it's going. And the new boys and girls that are coming through or whatever, that's what they're growing up with. I saw an Instagram post of these 8-year-old children. They put a rotary phone on the desk and they said, "What is this?" And they look at it.
They don't know it.
They don't know.
We spoke about it last time.
Yeah.
They don't know.
And how do you send a text? They were saying, Anyway, but that's a separate thing. You're right.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Sometimes I also think, that was quite easy.
Yeah.
But I so hate it when computer says no.
Yeah.
And computer often says no. And you cannot get past. Press 1, press 2. These automated things.
I hate that. Yeah.
I
It's
long.
still not-
If
it's
you
still not-
hate it as a young man, think about me.
But I will ask you something. I mean, now we hate it, but it's getting developed. And I think AI, you will hate me for that, but I think AI will not only replace us, but we will want to deal with AI rather than a human being. I'll tell you why. If there is a calculator in your hand, and me as a mathematician, and you wanted to run an equation, and you run it by me and by the calculator, who you will be trusting, the calculator or me?
You're right.
So that's
In that respect, you are right. Because there are individuals who are better, but they're 1 in a million. So
Yeah.
the majority of us, yeah. But what's it doing to us? Waleed, we are becoming lazy. You know?
That's just society, generally speaking, right? Like we don't do the things that we probably did growing up. Why is because technology made it easier. I think
but it
like
doesn't
even
make
our
it right.
iPhones.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's-
iPhones right now, for instance, or our smartphones, they can do things that, like, I think we always talked about the Clinton era in the US, that in the Clinton era, that you can send, I think, a spaceship to the moon from an iPhone now that you couldn't probably do when it was the Clinton era in the US. The computers couldn't even do that. Meaning, so like technology is going to continue to advance itself, and we just need to make sure that we embrace it rather than
No, 100% you're right.
basically
We have to
think
embrace
that
it.
it's not going to ever challenge us
No, but
or
a few
replace
people have
us.
said to me, we think your real estate is going to be replaced. And I think they're wrong. It's a bit like when the ATM machine, the cash
Yeah.
machine,
Yeah.
was going to replace tellers. Tellers have been replaced by other things because the cash machine was there. But there are still people, even today, that will go to the teller or whatever. Because
Yeah.
the cash machine will only give you, I don't know, whatever it is, 5,000, 10,000 dirhams
There'll
a
be
time.
limitations.
Exactly.
But
And that's where the
80% of the
computer says no.
transactions will be able to be managed through that machine. That's what I'm saying, that the volume of the business, the rentals, for instance, or perhaps certain sales that perhaps are not
Okay.
as complicated, perhaps can be.
But can I bring? Okay,
Yeah.
so I've just come back from Sicily. My wife and I are big White Lotus fans. I don't know whether you've ever heard
You've been there.
We went to Sicily. We went to the Four Seasons, right?
Yeah,
where they
White
filmed
Lotus.
the second series.
Nice.
Yeah.
all right.
I watched it.
My wife is a bigger fan than me. I mean, I like it, but she was, oh my God, we're where they filmed and all the rest of it. As we approached the courtyard, so we're on the road. We're stopped by security. Where are you going? We're dressed nicely. I'm of a certain age that hopefully they think,
Yeah.
you know, we're not hooligans, whatever. We'd like to have lunch. Okay. Do you have a reservation? No, I don't. Okay. I'm sorry, if you don't have a reservation, you can't come in. Well, can I make a reservation? Yeah, you've got to download this app.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate it.
Mario, come. Because honestly, I have anger problems.
You
know.
snap to Italian mode.
Straight away. Man. So, and I'm talking to the guy in Italian, and I'm going, okay. So where is it? Oh, it's called Tabletop or something. Where is it? Okay, show me. In the end, I wore him down. He picked up the phone, phoned the restaurant, and booked me in there. And then 1 hour
Without an
later,
app, yeah.
without an
100%.
app. So
Yeah.
that's the bit
Yes.
that I miss. As
yeah.
generationally, I miss that. So yes, of course it's easier. But then lucky I had roaming. What if I didn't? I was a cheapskate and I didn't have
had them,
roaming.
yeah.
Can you let me into the lobby so I can get to the Wi-Fi
True.
so that I can do this that you could have done by picking up the phone?
Agreed.
Yeah.
You know, that's the frustration for me. Honestly.
I can
App-
100% agree with that. That you still need to be able to know your audience and be able to cater to your audience the way they want to do business with you. So if they prefer to do business in person, make that available. If
Yeah.
they want to do, let's say, the meeting on Zoom, make that available.
Yeah.
And there are going to be people that are going to prefer to book their unit online
Yeah.
versus having to fly in and sign the contract
Yeah.
in person.
But also,
is
it's
because
an
that's more convenient
experience,
for
though,
them,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's you're not just buying; it's that experience of coming, being greeted, making feel special or whatever. And by the way, we had an amazing lunch, and the view was great. And
Yeah.
yes, and the
White
funny,
Lotus.
White Lotus. And the funny thing was, we were the first. When I walked in, nobody there, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you're making me book,
Oh my
right?
God.
Not one person was in there. Anyway, we sat down. This young couple came, and I looked at the guy. I thought, that guy, I recognize him from somewhere. He had one of those faces. Anyway, sat down. Waiter came, and I could overhear what they were saying. They were only from Dubai.
Oh.
Can you imagine? We're in Sicily, we're in Taormina, Sicily,
Yeah.
and the table two tables along.
Yeah.
The guy and the lady from
Dubai people are killing it.
they were on a cruise apparently,
Yeah, yeah.
and I wanted to sort of have a chat with them because it's not the done
Yeah.
thing, you know,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
private, and they left before us, kind of thing, and then we wandered around the grounds and took it all in.
Wow, that's interesting.
Dubai's a small place. The world is a small place.
The world is small, and everybody is coming now to Dubai. Just a quick last question before we wrap up the episode, because you are one of the people who understand agent culture. You understand everything about agents. I mean, in this new era of real estate that we are in, there's a lot of newcomers, right? I mean, if there is just one advice that you can give them that separates or that can make them survive, because it's getting harder to survive as an agent.
Yeah.
What's gonna be this advice?
Look, there are lots of things that I can say, but if I'm just going to narrow it down to one, it would be actually to lower your expectations. You talked about coming to Dubai and becoming a millionaire. Yes, I always say Dubai is paved with gold, but the gold is not on top of the pavement. It's not like you just walk on the pavement and you just pick it up. You've got to dig. You've got to get that pavement up.
Yeah.
And you've got to dig, and that dig is hard work. So lower your expectations about what you can become or will become, but never lose sight of who you are. You get out what you put in, and that's where the culture comes in as well. Again, if you have that culture of, first in, that's what I did in 2009. First in, last out. And I type like this, so it took me a long time to do certain things. And I still type like that, unfortunately. So lower the expectations, hard work, believe in yourself. I'm now giving you at least 3. Yeah. All of the above, and there's so much more. But remember that a mistake or issues or problems, make sure, because they will happen, that you learn from them, because that will make you a better person. I always think that problems lead to success, because when you have a problem and you overcome it, next time that problem comes, it might come in a different guise, but
you got the pattern.
You still have the basis of being able to overcome it. But lowering expectations, I think, is the main one.
And I agree.
I mean, agents, whether they're new or existing, I think one of the things that they need to focus on is creating basics in their day. They need to stick to making sure that they don't let bad habits of a good market be able to overcome the necessities of a good agent. And good agents, they need to have discipline. They need to be able to have that follow-up skill. They need to have that people skill. And if you focus on building that relationship, no matter if the market is good or bad, then sooner or later you're going to see yourself where clients are going to be following you for advice rather than just a transaction to transact for the purposes of a broker's need.
Or AI.
But that's also why we also need newcomers, because as you were talking there, I was thinking, but experienced agents do come with, as you say, bad habits. And to try and break those bad habits is difficult. True. Whereas a new agent, in theory, it's a blank canvas. They don't have those bad habits
you need both.
Yet, and potentially they will. But if you can teach them, but then you have that syndrome. You're right, that then you've invested in them, and then either something else shiny over there, and they then go off and change companies.
Yeah,
I would just say one last thing to wrap up, because we talked about AI and what makes a good agent. And I agree with what you said about the White Lotus, and you like the normal thing, and that we can do AI, we can do it the traditional way. Today, nowadays, if we talk fashion, luxury, it's still being made as it was made 80 years ago. So be a luxury agent, because if you will not, there will be like AI, but be the luxury, give the luxury experience. Mm-hmm. And
I think that's a perfect way to end.
And I'm just a podcaster about real estate. I'm not an agent. I have nothing to do with real estate.
But you could be an investor.
I can soon.
And that's
inshallah. No, the market segments, you have to pick one, become the expert at it.
Correct,
And no ChatGPT, no algorithm can replace you then. Because if you're the expert, then even ChatGPT will come to you.
Exactly.
To be able to learn from you and your
It's
content.
true.
Because that's what the ChatGPT does. It's machine learning.
Correct.
And actually, that's actually a very good advice, because when you were talking earlier, I cannot keep up with all these developers, all these new projects. That's the solution for it. If a new agent comes to the market, he don't need to know all this development. Just be a regional
that's where AI works, absolutely. But you touched on something really good, in that AI then learns from humans.
The machine learning.
And I don't like...
Humans also learn from humans.
No, of course, absolutely. Now, ChatGPT is, I said before, it makes us lazy, whatever. I still write myself. Everything I do it from my brain. It might take me 3 or 4 hours, and I know that's not a great use of time, but it's my spare time. But the funny thing is, the other day, I wrote into ChatGPT, write an article like Mario Volpi. I actually put my name in there.
Yeah.
And I recognized,
Your style.
yeah, that blew my mind.
You know, you can tell them, I want to write a
Yeah.
book
Now-
about this, like Senzu style or like Paulo Coelho style.
Yeah.
And it will be a Paulo Coelho book in few minutes.
But the one caveat I want to end with here is that the thing it gave me back, the words that it gave me back was a little bit like when you go into Google Translate.
Yeah.
It didn't always make sense.
Yeah.
But that's because it's not sophisticated enough.
Yet.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's going to learn. It's machine learning.
Exactly,
Right?
but
the more
yeah.
input it receives, the more output it can give.
Correct.
So that's one of the things that I think that we also have to know, that ChatGPT doesn't control us. We control it.
Yes.
What goes into it is what it's going to give out. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise of so many years in Dubai and the UK. I think that's something that our audience can definitely benefit from. Thank you for co-hosting with me. For all the people back home, like, subscribe, and comment below, and see you on the next episode.